that's on the agenda. So yes.
Today, yes. That's when I plan tours. That's how I do it. So.
Abu.
Amen.
Amen.
Abu.
Amen.
Abu.
Amen.
All right. Kwame to you all. What's the initials of Dr. Bois? His initials.
W.
Web.
So basically, we associate him to a spider and a web. And also, the spider web is actually an artistic creature which actually defines us as Black people in this continent. Because looking at the lines we can find in the spider web is coming from different parts, and it meets at one point. So it's actually telling us that wherever we find ourselves, it may be outside the borders of Africa, it may be in different countries. So far as you have this skin called Black, you are an African, and this is your root. This is where we all trace our roots. And together we will become one, or together we unite as one people. We will be able to achieve the goal, the target of our forefathers and ancestors. That's what the spider web is actually telling us.
Wait a minute, hold on. So you caught me at a disadvantage. I want to record this. This is historical. Can you just?
Okay, you fine.
Run it back.
All right. So as I said, the spider web is an artistic creature term which actually defines us as Black people, because the spider web has so many lines inside. And there's so many lines actually talking about you and I, saying that we are all coming from different parts of this African continent, different countries in this same continent, but we are still one people. It doesn't matter where you are from. You may be outside the borders of Africa. You may be in the US. You may be in Britain. You may be in any other country outside the borders of Africa. But so far as you have the skin called Black, you are an African people. You trace your bloodline, your ancestry under this cloud. We all find ourselves in here. That is what the web is actually telling us. So when you take a look closely at the fabric, you see so many lines coming from different parts, meeting at one point. So these are all you and I. I'm a Ghanaian, you're a Congolese, you're a Togolese, you're from Cote d'Ivoire, you're from Benin, Zambia. We are all one people meeting at one point. And the point we have in here talks about our freedom, our unity, our peace, independence, and our resources. So it's trying to tell us that when we one of the greatest forces we can talk about is love. We allow love to lead us as one people, we will be able to achieve our goal, whereby we can protect what is in the middle, in the center of this continent we can find ourselves in here. So this is all of us right here. This is our resources, our future, our destiny as Black people. And not just the lines, you can see some connections when we have closer lines connecting us to each other. That is why Ghana is connected to Cote d'Ivoire, connected to Togo, connected to Burkina Faso. And all these we are connected to each other. Talking about how Black people we are bond as one people. When we make love lead, there's bond, there's strength, there's unity, there's power. And when we keep this love and bond, it becomes very difficult for the oppressors to get inside of our territory, to get inside of our resources. That is what we are actually lacking. That's what we've been lacking since till now. Because if we haven't made love lead, exactly, because we haven't made love lead out of ignorance and out of we actually haven't come to a self-realization of ourselves. That is why actually these people, the civilized countries, have had a chance to enter in our comfort zone, which is the point right here. So when we connect ourselves, love each other, appreciate each other, appreciate ourselves, we will be connected automatically. In our minds, we will be connected. Physically, we will be connected. And that is what will actually bring us to the destination of this point, to prove to the world that we are strong in unity, because it says divided we fall, unity we stand. We will stand as one people and protect and govern what's in the middle right here. Looking at these Pan-African leaders that we have that have actually lost their lives terribly, like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, Du Bois, Nkrumah, Gaddafi, and all these leaders. They were leaders that had different ideas, different perception of how they can fight for the freedom of the African people. And all these different ideas, they had different ideas, but the goal was one. That is what we see right here. Different ideas, but one goal. So this I term as a wake-up call that we should all wake up as Black people. We should all come to a realization of who we are to the world. Without us, the world wouldn't reach the state it finds itself in. That is what we haven't come to realization of. So when we unite as one people, understand ourselves, appreciate ourselves, love ourselves, be generous to people, we will be able to achieve one goal. And the goal is what we see in the center. And this is just a normal fabric, but it just speaks a lot. Looking at the spider web, there's even a lot to talk about, but because of time, I don't want to keep y'all in here for hours, but just say a little bit that I can say.
That's good food, sir. That's good food.
Can one of y'all put we can go in here?
All right, this way. I'll help you.
Just bring so many dots together. You go to your same lesson and bring a lot of it.
Look at that web up there on the ceiling. Are you guys looking at the ceiling? The web?
The web?
Yeah.
Also the acorn is a big deal. Yes.
Sorry.
Strobe light is triggering my vertigo. That flashlight is triggering my vertigo.
My brother went to Google first. Hello. I go.
Hey.
Alright, so he was given the state burial by the Ghanaian government, and the pictures of the state burial is what we see on the walls. He died on the eve of the Civil Rights March on in Washington, which was led by Martin Luther King Jr., a freedom they were all fighting for. He went to Fisk University for his undergrad, he went to Harvard for his PhD, he taught in Howard, he taught in Clark, and the second wife went to Oberlin for hire. He was also part of a Greek fraternity called the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, that's the shed. This is a soil sample from his grave sites. The family's grave sites, that anytime he met his family, he would use the soil sample to console himself. And also this is also from the soil sample from his home site, Great Barrington, Massachusetts. That anytime he met his family, he missed his home site, he would use the soil sample to console himself. So we know water is life. As African people, we believe that when we die, we don't just die, but we go on a journey. Now this journey, we need water and light. Water to quench our thirst, and light to light our way whilst we are back on this journey. The second wife, when she died in China out of breast cancer, before her death, she requested that wherever the husband is buried, she wants to be buried right next to the husband. So we had the body cremated in ashes all the way back from China. She's in this box next to the husband. In this painting, we have Haile Selassie with Kwame Nkrumah. Haile Selassie was the emperor for Ethiopia. Ethiopia is one of the African countries to ever resist colonization by the Italians. The Italians tried, but was not able to succeed. We have here Dr. Du Bois and Kwame Nkrumah, also in that painting. When we take a close look at this top ceiling, what can we tell from the ceiling? What do we see? The spider web. Yes. So the main reason why we associate Dr. Du Bois as a spider, and can talk about how wise, how intelligent it is, and how knowledgeable it is. Spiders are not animals of stagnancy, but animals that always move from one point to another. And as they move, wherever they find themselves, they make sure they build webs. These webs they build is not just for themselves, but they build webs thinking of a generation. That this generation coming will not using their roots, will they have to go through the stress of building another web, but to live on this web without any harm and any stress. So to know a spider actually came to this room, you will know by the webs we see at the corners of the rooms. So when you take a look at the life of Dr. Du Bois, compare that to his life, when he came to this world, he was a man not of stagnancy, but a man that was always moving from one point to another. He was a man that wherever he found himself, he made sure he left a way behind. He left a footprint behind, he left a legacy behind, he left a good name. And all because of all these things he left behind is the main reason you and I found ourselves here. Because if it hadn't been that reason, I don't think none of these things we see in here will come to existence. Some of the works he left in Ghana, looking at the books he left in there for us to have a look and be inspired of, is a work he left here in Ghana. He also teamed up with all these African countries to achieve a goal, which was to fight for the unity, equality of the African people. It's a work he also left behind. There's a saying that good name is better than riches. It's better to have a good name than to have the world to yourself. It's good to have the world too, but the question is, if you leave this world, how best can this world benefit you and your generation till eternity? So, looking at Dr. Du Bois, he left a good name behind. And the good name that he left behind is what he was speaking of. Speaking for his generation, speaking for his grandkids, his kids, and his of his good deeds and his good work he did for the continent of Africa. You and I can be like Dr. Du Bois. That doesn't mean we have to speak to 1,000,000 or 1,000 people before we can build webs. It doesn't mean we have to also write close to 2,000 books before we can actually build a web in something. But we can start building webs from our families. We can start in our families. We can start in our friends, in our workplaces, in our churches. Because it's important to leave. It's important to leave behind something before leaving this particular space. If you find yourself for 100 years, if you are being called by God to eternity, there should be a little thing about you left behind that kind of a generation will actually come and meet of. Even with your workplace, if you are changing your workplace, there should be a good word which you left behind that even if you leave, your colleagues at work will still speak of you. That will make you who you truly are, and that will make you actually like Dr. Du Bois as he did in this world. He was a man not of riches, but he was a man of wealth. Because wealth doesn't actually come by what we have, but it comes by the legacies we leave behind for the next generation coming after us. So that is why we actually associate him to a spider and a web. Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Our tour is going to take, I think, about 40 minutes more. It's actually in 2 sessions. One phase will just happen outside here. The second phase will end up in those 2 wide buildings behind us. But before we move, I'd just like to give a brief biography of the man who was celebrating Ghana's first president and Ghana's first prime minister as well. So Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was born on 21st September 1909 in a small village in the southwestern part of the then Gold Coast, a small village called Nkrumah. Nkrumah was raised single-handedly by his mother, together with the help of some Catholic priests at the time. He had his basic education around the same area where he was born, and then from there he moved to a very prestigious school here in Accra called the Accra School as a teacher. After Nkrumah's training in Accra here at the Accra School, he got to teach in some selected schools along the coast of the country for 5 years. At the end of the 5th year, Nkrumah won himself a scholarship to study at the Lincoln University in Pennsylvania State. He studied sociology and economics, and then from there he moved on to the University of Pennsylvania, where he had a master's degree in philosophy and in education. Nkrumah also got to serve as the assistant professor of African languages at the Lincoln University. So collectively, he spent a total of about 10 years in the US. He also moved to the London School of Economics, where he enrolled for his PhD in 1945. Now, while he was in London, he only got to spend a semester in school because in London he developed a keen interest in Pan-African politics. And so, having caught the attention of the first active political party in the Gold Coast Background, known as the UGCC, an invitation was extended out to him to come back home to serve for this country. Nkrumah accepted that invitation and then came down to the Gold Coast in December 1947. But he could only work with the group for just 2 years, citing ideological differences. He broke away from that to form his own party as a CPO, or the Convention People's Party in 1949. Now, after its formation, he began a series of activities geared towards the total liberation of his people from British colonial rule. So in January 1950, he launched what was known as Positive Action. That actually was supposed to be a non-violent, non-confrontational approach towards the quest for freedom. Unfortunately, the headline Positive Action used several meanings to indicate violence. It basically led to a series of boycotts and strike actions within the country at the time. The British had sufficient reason to believe that Nkrumah was inciting the people to rebel against their government. They had him arrested and sentenced to prison for 3 years on the charge of sedition, right at the Bois prison. The good thing is that after those disturbances, a committee was set up to also look into the issues. And one of the recommendations made was to organize elections in the country for the first time, to elect Africans into the National Assembly. Nkrumah was allowed to take part in the elections. His party was allowed to contest in there, while he was in prison. And out of the 38 seats being contested, his party was able to secure 34 of them.
I noticed that as soon as the music came on,
As soon as the music comes on,
I saw you popping in there.
This is a musical fountain. So as soon as the music comes on, it does this. Look at that.
So this was torn down, the head chopped off, the arm broken off. Now while this was happening, there
Broken. I'm sorry.
So it was also destroyed in '66,
Okay.
purposefully on orders from the military government that took over from them.
Okay.
So it was torn down, with the head chopped off, the arm broken, the whole thing torn down. Now, the head was picked up by a woman due to the love and sympathy she had for Dr. Kwame. She took it away, took her home the moment it was torn down in '66. Years later, this was recovered in 1975 and subsequently brought out in 2007.
Oh, okay.
So the woman also had the head returned in 2009 on condition that identity was not revealed. So you see them apart because they came in at different times, and then we've left them untouched also to preserve the history behind it.